Thanks to President Obama's domestic passions, everyone now can marry a cat. As sports teams with bad names are demonized forever. Hooray for a fluffier America. There's just one small matter. It's called the world. It's a mess. And we've got a boss more interested in feelings than fracking. He's not even navel-gazing because that requires the talent to find your navel. As borders crumble and nations burn, he sits inside playing Nintendo, and social change is his Nintendo. But now terror is back and better than ever, and one wonders why not play whack-a-mole instead.
What we're not going to be able to do is to play whack-a-mole and chase wherever extremists appear, occupy those countries for long periods of time and think somehow that we're going to solve those problems. What we can't do is think that we're just going to play whack-a-mole and send U.S. troops occupying various countries wherever these organizations pop up.
Well, if the war on terror can't be whack-a-mole, then what should it be? Wait till they come here and whack us? And isn't it your job to whack the moles? Here's the plan. You split the crazy from the sane, then you kill the crazies. If they want to die for Allah, that's crazy. And why not help them? I'd rather have them up there than down here. The mistake was believing the war on terror was over. It's just begun. Terror is centuries old. We just woke up 13 years ago. The danger is mistaking suppression for elimination. Some kids barely remember 9/11. We have classes on sex ed, so why not on terror? Faced with an apocalyptic possibility where the worst kind of people gain the worst kind of weapons, we must be ready. America must once again become the happy warrior through energy independence via fracking and a super deadly national defense. Forget global warming. We must stop global incineration. Remember when Al-Qaeda was on the run? Now they make Usain Bolt look like the slowest kid at fat camp, and they're coming for us. No charge against the beast.
Usain Bolt.
World's fastest man.
Yeah, he's a fast guy.
And with like the lightning bolt sign?
KG,
yeah.
What's wrong? What's wrong with whacking moles? We got ISIS right now. They're trying to take over oil fields, hydro companies. They're looking for weapons, and they're finding them.
Right.
What's wrong with whacking moles? Isn't that how you do it?
It's the whole point. That's why the phrase goes together, whack-a-mole. They actually like it. They want to be whacked. It makes them feel important, like you're paying attention to them. And I think we should only be so happy to oblige, especially when we're dealing with terrorists that threaten our very way of life, our liberty, our principles, our freedom, and the future for our children. I don't get it. Like, didn't he get a little Cliff Notes version of how to combat terror when he came into the White House? Because I still think that he's a little slow on the uptake. The learning curve is taking too long.
I think he thinks ISIS was just a morning children's show. Bob, on this show many times, you are disgusted by the radical Muslim attacks on Christians and the horrible things they do to people. Shouldn't your disgust extend to action rather than just saying how much you hate it?
Well, here's the problem, and I think Obama was right about this. What are we going to do? Are we going to put people on the ground in every place there's an insurgency with Muslim radicals? Look, the Rand Corporation is about to come out with a study saying that in order to stabilize Iraq, it would require 100,000 U.S. troops and 5 more years. The American people aren't going to put up with that. We're going to have to accept the fact that there's very little we can do except let these countries go and protect Israel. That's about it.
So basically you're saying, yeah, you'll get angry when Muslims do horrible things, but you're not willing to fight them.
No, well, where are you going to fight them? How are you going to fight them?
Why does the solution have to be putting boots on the ground?
Well, what's the alternative to that?
You bomb the crap out of them.
Well, but that's easy to say, but where are you going to bomb them?
No, and you have certain strategic posts to be able to gather intelligence, and you hit them on all their supply routes, where they can bring food, supplies, everything in. There's a way to do this and be strategic and not expend a lot of U.S. lives if you do it right.
The last time I heard that was about Vietnam.
All right, well, Bob, you know what? This isn't a country of, like, quitters. You just want us to, like, throw up the weapon and go, okay, fine, let the terrorists take over and then abandon our most important ally, Israel? Do you think Israel feels good about that?
If the terrorists took over Iraq, what is the problem?
What is the problem?
Is it worth
terror? So you're basically saying, fine, let's just bring it in. Let's just
I'm saying that you can't resolve something that's hundreds of years old.
Open the doors to the caliphate. Let the terrorists take over. Because what you're not getting, Bob, is that's going to be happening here. You don't seem to understand the connection, and it's naive to think that you can just do nothing, turn a blind eye to the Middle East and assume that everything is going to be fine here, because it is not.
With all due respect, what's naive is to believe that somehow the United States military is in a position to handle all this without losing an extraordinary amount of lives and a lot of money.
There's a way to do it smart if they listen to the experts.
We've done this before. We know how to do this. We won this war. It's not like all or nothing.
So here's the way I see it. Let me start with the reason why we're failing in the Middle East right now, and it's all Obama's fault. Number one, when he came into office, Bob, listen, when he came into office, he first said Islam is a religion of peace in Cairo in 2009. That was setting the stage for what was to come next. What came next was embracing Arab Springs in Egypt and Libya. That was okay. But when it spread to Syria and then on to Iraq, all of a sudden, all those weapons we gave to the people who are fighting against the regimes, they started to trickle into other places. So that's number two. And number three, this engagement with Iran is the biggest mistake the Obama administration has ever done, probably any administration has done. For them to say we're going to lift the sanctions on on the Iranian economy, on the Iranian oil, on the Iranian nuclear programs, we are foolish. We're sending a signal throughout the Arab world that we've rolled over, we've put our leg up like my dog does when he wants his belly scratched, and that's exactly what Obama has done for us. That's the reason. I have a couple of thoughts on what Kimberly and Bob were getting into, and I'm going to say I'm agreeing with Bob on this, that we stay out of the region, but I'll get to that. Let me
go ahead. I don't care.
Well, I want to ask you, Kimberly, what happened? I mean, Dana.
I know.
I've been away for a week.
But if I look like Kimberly now, that's great. Things are looking up.
Aw, that's sweet.
Is this what happens when we fold up shop? When we decide we're going to get out?
I think that the consensus is building amongst analysts that the 2011 decision by President Obama to tell America that we will be safer if we pull all the troops out, and that we didn't sign the SOFA agreement, the status of forces agreement, to leave the troops there, and we didn't follow through then on the diplomatic and political commitments that we had. Plus, in the last year, increasingly in the last few months, as the Iraqis have been asking America for help to push back ISIS where they were, we offered a couple of Hellfire missiles and 2 Cessna planes, which weren't going to do much. So, yes, I think that without that power abhors a vacuum, right? And if you leave a vacuum, that's why I think that strength translates into cooperation. And you have to have something in order to show that you are willing to push back. One of the reasons that the Taliban said that they hit us on, or that Al-Qaeda hit us on 9/11 was because they thought that we wouldn't fight back. And then we fought back.
And we're telling them now that we won't.
Well, yeah, but first of all, the problem here is not 2011. It was putting Malaki in the first place.
No,
who made a commitment. He made a commitment to include Sunnis in his government. He did not do that.
They were elected to do so.
First of all, Bob, we didn't put Malaki in. He was elected. That's what we want, free elections.
He was installed first and then elected.
And then elected. So, remember, that's what we were all about. Let's allow countries to pick their own leaders. Freedom. Pick their own leaders. That was Obama's, in my opinion. That's why Iraq is going to be three different countries pretty soon.
I mean, please.
Let's. I want to go to some sound on tape. This is two Republicans thinking quite differently on this problem. You got Rand Paul. You got Dick Cheney. Go.
What's going on now, I don't blame on President Obama. Has he really got the solution? Maybe there is no solution, but I do blame the Iraq war on the chaos that is in the Middle East. I also blame those who are for the Iraq war for emboldening Iran.
If we spend our time debating what happened 11 or 12 years ago, we're going to miss the threat that is growing and that we do face. Rand Paul, with all due respect, is basically an isolationist. He doesn't believe we ought to be involved in that part of the world. I think it's absolutely essential.
I always like it when they say with all due respect, because that's when they insult you.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, listen, yeah, exactly. Then you know some bad's coming. But you know what? The other side doesn't know anything's bad's coming because it's not. Because you got President Obama and the people advising him will put politics every single day of the week ahead of the national security interest. He has to make hard decisions. When you're a president, like President Bush did after 9/11, you've got to do something and act in the best interest of the country. You can't always be poll checking, wind checking to see, is my base going to support this? Do the right thing. Doing the right thing and making the tough decisions shouldn't be that difficult. And I think standing back and doing nothing is not in any way a good move for the future of this country or all the sacrifice that we made to try and stabilize that region. Why do we become a nation of quitters?
For the nerve of Dick Cheney to say, let's not look back at 11 or 12. Oh, please, what? You want to excuse this guy? This guy came up with phony information about going into a war that said there were weapons of mass destruction.
I think this is like feigned outrage.
I don't understand. Like, this is what I don't understand is why, I mean, having worked there, I don't understand this conspiracy theory that people think Dick Cheney came up with something and he was the only one in the world that was able to affect change.
Because they're watching too much late-night TV.
Every single...
Did Bill Clinton come up with it first?
During the Clinton administration. So, first of all, we're all blaming one another when we should be blaming Saddam Hussein. Okay, we didn't start this. Okay, he did. Then all 15 agencies involved in gathering intelligence for the United States agreed with high confidence that Iraq is continuing to get the WMD. So did the intelligence agencies of Britain, Germany, Russia, China, Israel, and France. And yet somehow it was Dick Cheney that convinced him all by himself that this was what was happening.
The Wizard of Oz.
Where does that? How does that?
Well, where were the weapons of mass destruction?
No, Bob,
you're missing the point.
How do you say that Dick Cheney came up with a lie that after when all those agencies
he's the one who told
thing?
He convinced the president Dick Cheney to have Colin Powell go before the UN and come up with a bunch of boards that were just absolutely phony.
But the great thing about this debate about who was right or who was wrong is you don't have to risk anything. You don't have to do anything.
So what do you want to do? You want to go back in there and?
I want to exterminate terrorists whenever they pop up.
How are you going to do that without going on the ground?
We've been doing it with drones.
We've been very successful.
We were getting better at it.
And Obama's actually good with the drone.
Can I ask you, we've been very successful at that comment? I mean, because I don't agree with you that we've been very successful.
Well, what else is new? We're not agreeing much lately.
Guys. Listen, this is the reason why I'm going to agree with Bob on this one.
Yeah.
We're now seeing pictures of Abrams tanks and Humvees with ISIS fighters in them.
Why is that, Eric?
Why is that? Because the Iraqi soldiers have laid down their arms. Because the Syrian rebels that we armed, who were supposed to help us, are the same people who've turned around and decided they want Iraq as well.
And that ties right back into not having an appropriate status of forces agreement to secure the region.
Hold on. We have pictures of United States senators with terrorists that we won't run here, but it'll run on other magazines, it'll run in other areas, but we won't run it on this show. He's standing with terrorists. I'm not, listen, all I'm saying is we don't know who our friends are. We don't know who we're arming. We don't know who we're giving money to. We don't know who we're training. We should certainly.
So what should we do? Go hide in a closet with our favorite blanket and a flashlight?
Let's put 500,000 United States forces on the ground and bring and do it.
No, kill him. You see a terrorist, kill him. You got a terrorist?
Now I'm on board.
Can I just say, I do think that there is a small ray of hope with something. Okay, ISIS as a group, their method is to kill and kidnap. And that's how they have coerced people into supporting them. But that is not a long-range strategy. And you had people in the northern part of Iraq and in Anbar province and the Kurds all say, we are not going to stand for that back in 2006, 2007. I don't think that ISIS actually can win hearts and minds on the ground there. So there is a chance for us to at least try to push them back. I think that we at least have to try.
I think the best thing that could happen to us is to have ISIS take over Iraq, and then the Iranians got to be checked at the border, and they can't go out and explore nuclear weapons. They're the ones most terrified right now of ISIS. It is not the Israelis. It is.
There are three different. I know we got to go. There are three different factions right now. You have the Iraqi military, you have the Al Qaeda, and you have ISIS.
Iraqi
and you have
military.
three different groups. Forget the Sunnis in the north, the Kurds in the north. Forget all that. It is so convoluted. It's a mess. There's no reason to continue to spend money and put assets in the ground. You want to drone them? I agree with you. Drone the hell out of them. Fine.
Well, but that's our point. You can't just sit there and not do anything. Why can't you just cut them off at the pass? There are ways to do it.
We got it. We are beginning to drone. Directly ahead, Hillary.